It would seem that some are stinging so bad from last night's Democratic victories that they're looking for anything to grasp hold of. This fellow went to this post that I made here.
Wanting a child born is pro-birth. Wanting a child fed, housed, educated, with parents who earn a livable wage is pro-life.
And you see it, he's saying that anyone who doesn't think that abortion is murder, that thinks it's not murder, they got something wrong upstairs. Well, you know what, fella? I go to the Bible. You see, I'm a devout Christian, and I believe in what the Bible says about abortion. You know what? The fact is that abortion is nothing new. It's been around for 5,000 years. It was a common practice performed by midwives who would help women induce miscarriages for their unwanted pregnancies. Because back then, there was no form of birth control. And the only thing they had was what the midwives would help women abort these unwanted pregnancies through inducing a miscarriage. And this practice was common everywhere, including in ancient Israel during the writing of both the Old and New Testament. Guess what you won't find anywhere in the Bible? Not one word condemning the practice. You see I'm wrong? Well, you can prove me wrong by finding it. Matter of fact, there is one passage that touches on abortion. Let me grab one of my Bibles. Here, you see, I do have a few on my shelf. I'm reading from the book of Exodus, chapter 21, verses 22 through 25. And it reads as this. If two men are fighting and in the process hurt a pregnant woman so that she has a miscarriage, but she lives, then the man who injured her shall be fined whatever amount the woman's husband shall demand, and the judges approve. But if further harm comes to the woman and she dies, he shall be executed. If her eye is knocked out, if her eye is injured, injure his. If her tooth is knocked out, knock his out. So on and so forth. Hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, lash for lash. How does it prove them wrong? Well, what is the common answer when we say, show me a verse in the Bible that condemns abortion? They immediately say, thou shalt not kill, right? Okay. But what is the penalty for killing another human being? The penalty for murder. Is it not the murderer is executed? Yeah. So why, if this baby was a living human being, why was the life of the man who caused the miscarriage, the abortion, not required of him? Why was he not executed for causing the death of the baby? Here's the reason. The ancient Hebrews, like Jews today, believe that divine spark, that thing that makes us uniquely different from any other animal on the planet, that living soul, they believe it was breathed into the child when it took its very, very first breath. Go back to the story in the creation where God had Adam's body fully formed, but it was not alive yet. Not until God breathed into him a living soul. And so they do not believe that prior to the birth, when the child takes his first breath, that there's a living soul in it, and therefore it's not human. It's like an animal, yet not alive yet. That's why there's not a death penalty for the man causing the death. Now, even though this totally debunks their notion, some of these characters are so dishonest that they actually took and rewrote that passage. What was commonly used was the New American Standard Bible. And this was the one that blew away the argument more than anyone. And in this one, it words it a little bit differently. It doesn't specify that it's talking about the woman, but it says if further harm comes, then it's a life for life, tooth for tooth, hand for hand. And what these dishonest men said, they said, well, they bought first a controlling interest in the publishing company that put out the New American Standard Bible. And then they said, we're going to simplify the Bible, make it easier to understand. Just an excuse. And then they said, well, what's the definition of a miscarriage? They said, well, it's the premature birth before the child can survive outside the womb. Oh, well, just simplify that down to premature. What they were trying to do is make it sound like it wasn't a miscarriage, which always ends up in the fetus being dead, but rather a premature birth. But if there is a death, then it's life for life. They're trying to change it around from not being that second part of the passage, which is saying if there is further harm, meaning to the woman, they're trying to say, no, that further harm is to the fetus, to the baby. But here's the problem. They didn't rewrite the whole thing because it didn't dawn on them. You see, it says, if further harm comes, then it's life for life, tooth for tooth, hand for hand. Now, keep in mind, that baby was born with two hands, right? Two eyes. However, no newborn baby is born with teeth, but the mother had them. You see that second part saying the penalty of life for life, that was about for the mother, not for the baby. They rewrote it trying to change the meaning. That's how dishonest they are, because they knew that they were wrong. But instead of altering their beliefs, they altered the Bible. Now, as I've said before, there's not one passage in the Bible condemning the practice of aborting unwanted pregnancies. If you say I'm wrong, all you have to do is show me the passage where God said, thou shalt not terminate an unwanted pregnancy or terminate a pregnancy. Go ahead, find it. You can't. You have passages you try to twist around, but they do not condemn this practice. And like that picture showed, if you do not support feeding that child, giving medical care, education, good income for the parents so they have time with the child, helping raise it, You are not pro-life. You're just pro-birth. And that's why it gets down to. And that seemed to annoy this fellow. And he wanted anything to talk about other than the fact that the Democrats spanked the Republicans in last night's election. Have a good night, my friends.